The Prohibition era in the United States originated due to pressing social concerns surrounding alcohol consumption. Throughout the 19th century, the temperance movement gained a lot of traction as its advocates argued that alcohol was the underlying cause of many of society's issues, including, but not limited to, poverty, criminality, and domestic violence. The movement was a collaborative effort, driven by religious groups, women's organizations, and social reformers. Their main argument was that women were the ones who suffered the consequences of alcohol abuse in the household. To tackle these issues, temperance societies sprung up all throughout the nation, protesting for abstinence from alcohol, and they pushed for regulations on alcohol at both local and state levels. Over time, they began to get a foothold in American politics. Until January 16, 1919, when they got their wish, and the 18th Amendment to the United States Constitution was made. The amendment prohibited the manufacture, sale, and transportation of alcoholic beverages across the nation, the official beginning of the Prohibition Era, an era which created a substantial shift in both American society and culture. It's safe to say some were happier than others. The Roaring Twenties and the Volstead Act. The 1920s, commonly known as the Roaring Twenties, until the Great Depression that is, were a double-edged sword in American history. On the one hand, it was a time of massive social change, economic growth, and let's just say, a shift in culture. On the other hand, it saw the peak of alcohol consumption, leading to the rise of speakeasies, illegal bars that served alcohol despite all of the prohibition laws. Speakeasies were becoming more and more common throughout major cities, offering residents the illegal pleasures of alcohol. The divide in culture between the urban alcohol indulgers and the moralist rural people only deepened as Prohibition went on. To put some more weight behind the ignored 18th Amendment, Congress passed the National Prohibition Act in 1919, commonly referred to as the Volstead Act, named unsurprisingly after Congressman Andrew Volstead, who sponsored the legislation. The legislation provided legality to the enforcement of prohibition. The Volstead Act established that any beverage that contained more than 0.5% alcohol by volume was considered an alcoholic beverage and was therefore prohibited. The act also laid out the punishments for violating the act, which were fines or imprisonment. Despite all legislation, the government's enforcement of prohibition proved to be a difficult challenge. The still high demand for alcohol fueled a new black market for it, and this was a new opportunity for those willing to risk providing it to the people. Rise of the bootleggers. During the Prohibition, the country saw the rise of bootleggers and moonshiners, who emerged as crucial figures in the illegal alcohol trade. Bootleggers specialized in both the smuggling and distributing of alcohol to the masses in demand of it. Moonshiners, on the other hand, deciding they wanted to cut out the risk of smuggling alcohol, operated in rural America to create liquor themselves, which they could then distribute how they felt fit. Prohibition was the spark that ignited the fire, which was organized crime. It brought men like Al Capone of Chicago, Lucky Luciano of New York City, and many more to the forefront of the public eye. These men and mobs became the main distributors of illegal alcohol, and the Prohibition era solidified them as key figures in the criminal underworld. Al Capone, or as you may know him, Scarface, ruled Chicago's underworld, running speakeasies, breweries, and had law enforcement in his back pocket. Lucky Luciano, a somewhat savvy gangster, was a key figure in uniting Italian and American mafia groups, and he also ran a lot of the bootlegging operations in New York City. But the gangsters didn't get along very well, and the seriousness of the bootlegging problem became apparent on Valentine's Day morning in 1929 when 4 men from Capone's Chicago outfit gunned down 7 men from rival gangster Bugs Moran's North Side Gang, in what became known as the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. It was a day that really highlighted the dangers that bootlegging provided to society, and with bootlegging being caused directly by Prohibition, it turned a lot of eyeballs towards the Prohibition Act. The impact of Prohibition. Prohibition, which was originally intended to promote more of a moral and sober society, led to unforeseen shifts in American culture. Speakeasies rose up, providing a new underground nightlife. A nightlife which gave birth to the Roaring Twenties. The Prohibition also led to a newfound rebellion against government control, with many ignoring the Prohibition Act entirely. Legitimate businesses within the alcohol industry were destroyed as a result of the Prohibition, which resulted in widespread losses of jobs. In the meantime, illegal alcohol trade was booming, creating a step up for organized crime groups and a platform for them to grow their organizations, which further tore apart the goal of more morality in society. The Prohibition's unintended effects reached a lot further than its original goal of promoting temperance. While it aimed to reshape society's values, it rather reshaped the nation's nightlife and criminal underworld, with these enduring changes still continuing to influence the United States to this very day. The end of Prohibition. As Prohibition continued, Americans began to grow more and more unhappy about it. Instead of reducing alcohol, it led to a hidden alcohol business. As time went on and more people ignored the law, and places like speakeasies became more and more common, the government's attempts to stop alcohol became less and less effective. The economic struggle of the Great Depression made people less and less supportive of the Prohibition Act. With people believing that if alcohol were legal and under control, that it would lead to more jobs, and this was a driving factor that led to the change in public opinion and the growing movement against the 18th Amendment. It all led to December 5, 1933, when the 21st Amendment was made. The amendment repealed the previous 18th Amendment, with this being the only time in American history that one constitutional amendment canceled out another, and it was this amendment that led to the end of the Prohibition Era. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the Prohibition Era. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more content like this in the future, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also comment down below to let us know you subscribed, and we'll respond to you as soon as possible. We'll see you next time.